Today, we're going to be talking about movement. In particular, we're going to be talking about upper motor neurons and the connections they make to cause movement. We're also going to be taking an in-depth look into the upper motor neuron injury of a stroke.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill
Nye the Science Guy.
Science rules.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill
Nye the Science Guy.
All right, so my upper motor neurons are working great. I've got a steady step and I can feel my feet. All right, welcome to the Nye Laboratory. Top secret. Shh. Meet. Follow me.
Is 1:30 the next day? Oh.
Hi, and welcome to my laboratory. Now, it's time to get down to business. Upper motor neurons provide all the motor signals from the brain to the spinal cord. In fact, they go from the cortical and brainstem areas to lower motor neurons located within the brainstem and the spinal cord. These are the connections that produce movement. All right, so let's see a little example of this movement. When you decide to bust a fancy dance move, the decision to move starts up in your brain, in your upper motor neurons, and travels to lower motor neurons in the spinal cord. These lower motor neurons then synapse with skeletal muscle in order to produce movement. Let's see this in action. So to get a little more detail on upper motor neurons, we're going to bring in another expert. This is Dr. Al, our neuroscientist and OT.
Why, hello, I'm glad to be here today. Hello, kids.
We're glad to have you and your expertise. So Dr. Al, what more can you tell us about upper motor neurons?
Well, Bill, it's also important to know that the upper motor neurons connect to the lower motor neurons via tracts that are considered part of the medial activating system, lateral activating system, and non-specific activating systems. The medial and lateral activating systems are classified based on where they synapse in the ventral horn, whereas non-specific activating systems synapse anywhere.
That's very interesting, Dr. Al. You're such a smart OT.
Oh, thank you. Let's go this way. So the medial activating tracts include the medial reticulospinal, the tectospinal, the medial vestibulospinal, the lateral vestibulospinal, and the medial corticospinal. And the lateral activating tracts includes the rubrospinal, lateral reticulospinal, the lateral corticospinal, and the corticobular spinal.
That was very interesting, Dr. Al. Thanks so much for sharing. Some of our viewers may be wondering, what happens when an upper motor neuron is injured? Today, we will be interviewing and discussing an individual who has had a stroke. A stroke is considered an upper motor neuron injury.
Let's take an up-close look at some of the signs and symptoms associated with a stroke. I'm going to go get Beatrice.
Sounds good. So today, we will be interviewing a very special individual, Beatrice. Beatrice has had a stroke affecting her middle cerebral artery. As you can see in this picture, the middle cerebral artery supplies the area colored in red of the brain. Later on, we will get into a little more detail about exactly what areas of the brain this is and how it affects our function with Dr. Al, our neuroscientist.
Due to her stroke, Beatrice has lost partial sensation in her left leg and arm. She has decreased motor function in these extremities due to her lower motor neurons being intact. But due to post-stroke spasticity in her upper and lower extremities, it can be difficult for her to safely ambulate. Initially, Beatrice had expressive aphasia and demonstrated drooping in the left side of her mouth. Fortunately, over time, with therapy, she has regained motor functions in her face and her speech is back.
Oh, sorry, Billy, about your door. I don't know how those doors always get over there because I see fine.
Oh, Beatrice, watch out!
Where do you want me?
Let's go this way.
Okay. Thanks, y'all, for having me on your show. Really appreciate it, Billy. I'm excited to help all you kids learn something today.
So Beatrice, I understand that you had a stroke. How are you doing since then?
Well, I can't really walk that good anymore because unfortunately my leg's real tight, my arm's real tight, and it's really bad in the morning, especially after when I get up. And sometimes I have struggles getting my words out, but that's a lot better now. And you know, I see fine, but everyone tells me I'm always running into things on the left side, but I don't know why they say that, because I see just fine. And then they say sometimes that I forget where my arm is, but I know where my arm is. It's right here. See, here's my arm.
Right.
And then, yeah, but you know, I have a daughter. She lets me live with her, and she takes care of me, and she helps stretch me, and she helps get me in the shower, and she's a really good daughter. Her name's Martha May.
Wow, she sounds like a great daughter.
She is.
And just so our audience knows, Beatrice here had a stroke on her right side. So we're just going to get a little bit more information from you, Beatrice. What are some daily activities that are a little difficult for you?
Well, getting out of bed's kind of hard because I'm real stiff. And then it's really hard to eat because I just have one hand to eat with because my other hand, it's kind of tight. And then sometimes I swear they don't give me enough food because they ate my food and then I don't know where the rest of it went. But then my daughter always just turns my plate and there it is. I don't know how it got there. And you know, it's really frustrating not to be able to walk and do things like I like, but I can get around in my wheelchair real good.
That's good.
Well, Billy and kids, it's been nice joining you all. I hope you all learned someday, but I gotta get going to bingo.
All right. Hopefully you win something, Beatrice.
So it was really a delight having Beatrice with us on the show today, and I really feel like we learned a lot from her. Dr. Al, do you have any insight that you'd like to add to Beatrice's comments today? A little more insight into the neurology behind her injury?
Well, yes, I do. I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail here.
The middle cerebral arteries supply the majority of the lateral surface, including inferior parietal lobe, which is sensory detection and perception, the superior temporal lobe, which includes comprehension of language and long-term memory, frontal lobe, which mediates cognition, intelligence, problem-solving, and short-term memory, expressive language, motor planning, mathematical calculations, and working memory. And then the last one is the prefrontal lobe, self-insight, and the regulation of your emotions.
Thanks for joining us today, everybody, on Bill Nye the Science Guy. Sure hope you learned a lot about upper motor neurons and more specifically, movement. Tune in next time when we learn a little bit about something else about science. See you next time.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill
Nye the Science Guy.
Science rules.
Nye the Science Guy.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill
Bill Nye the Science Guy.